India's new Parliament House has been inaugurated by the Prime Minister, ending a week of political controversies. But that single image on your screen gives us a lot to talk about. In fact, the entire inauguration ceremony was filled with motifs and symbols that will leave pundits and political analysts, and of course, Indian citizens, with many days of conversation and debate. And we hope to start some of it this evening on our program. As the Prime Minister, of course, received the Sengol, later, in a few minutes, in fact, there was also a multi-faith ceremony. Workers who were associated with the project were individually felicitated by the Prime Minister, and then there were these images of Indian wrestlers protesting against sexual harassment, not allowed to hold their Mahapanchayat, which they wanted to hold as a gesture of protest outside the new Parliament House. So a lot to talk about. It's been a day of, I would say symbols that lend themselves up to deep political analysis, but it's also a day of history in the making. No matter which side of the ideological and political trenches you are, this was a grand ceremony. And I personally found the multi-faith prayers especially moving and a powerful symbol of what the core of India is all about. So let's introduce our very special panel this evening as we look at this very, very important and seminal day in the life of India as a nation, but also in the life of India looking ahead at an election, because nothing is without politics in this country, and the opposition, 20 parties, boycotted this inauguration. Joining us up first is Jaya Jaitley. We, of course, know her as one of India's best crafts activists, but I don't know how many of you know that she was closely associated with the new Parliament House project, looking and overseeing a lot of the artwork, the selection of the layouts, a lot of the aesthetics of the new Parliament House have to do with her. And congratulations, it looks spectacular, and we'll hear more from you in a moment. Also joining us is a senior journalist and columnist, Saba Naqvi. Always a pleasure, Saba. Also joining us is Mohandas Pai. Mr. Pai is an avowed fan of the Prime Minister, but not scared to criticize the government when he feels strongly about something, and we've seen that often. He doesn't pull his punches. Good to see you. Also joining us is Yashwant Deshmukh, political pundit and psephologist. Always a pleasure, Yashwant. And also joining us is historian Professor Mridula Mukherjee. Good to see you, ma'am. I want to start actually by playing out the message that President Murmu had read out on her behalf. This is important because the backdrop of the boycott was in the context of the president not having been invited to do the honors. The president issued a statement about how happy she was at what she had seen and how she thought the prime minister symbolized what she called the trust of Parliament. Listen in.
हमारे संविधान के शिल्पकारों ने एक ऐसे राष्ट्र की परिकल्पना की थी जिसका स्वरूप लोकतांत्रिक पद्धति से चुने गए प्रतिनिधियों से बनी संसद के विधायी विवेक के आधार पर निर्मित होगा। इसलिए मुझे इस बात पर गहरा संतोष है कि संसद के विश्वास के प्रतीक प्रधानमंत्री इस भवन का उद्घाटन कर रहे हैं।
A short statement that should have ended the debate, but the debate hasn't ended over whether the president should have been invited to do the honors. The prime minister, interestingly, made no mention at all of the opposition boycott. Listen to an excerpt of what he said.
साथियों, आज सुबह ही मैं इस संसद भवन को बनाने वाले श्रमिकों के एक समूह से मिला हूं। इस संसद भवन ने करीब 60,000 श्रमिकों को रोजगार देने का भी काम किया है। उन्होंने इस नई इमारत के लिए अपना पसीना बहाया है। मुझे खुशी है कि इनके श्रम को समर्पित एक डिजिटल गैलरी भी संसद में बनाई गई है और विश्व में शायद ये पहली बार हुआ होगा। संसद के निर्माण में अब उनका योगदान भी अमर हो गया है। साथियों, कोई भी एक्सपर्ट अगर पिछले 9 वर्षों का आकलन करे तो पाएगा कि ये 9 साल भारत में नवनिर्माण के रहे हैं, गरीब कल्याण के रहे हैं।
The opposition targeted the Prime Minister, accusing him of treating the day as a coronation instead of a moment that was meant to underline the power of the people. But we'll come to the politics in just a moment. There's a lot of, as I said, visual symbolism that has its own conversations raging. And I want to start with Jaya Jaitley. Ms. Jaitley, as I said in my introduction, you were closely involved with this project. In fact, if we can just come out of these pictures, and before we go to Jaya ji, I want to actually play some of the images of the work. There, you can see those images that this Jaitley was overseeing in the new Parliament House. A lot of the artwork has been supervised personally by her. What did it mean to you, ma'am, to work on this project? What does the new house, what does all of this represent to you? What did it mean to you?
Well, what I found most exciting from the very first day of the first meeting, which we had when the chief architect Bimal Patel addressed us also, was that there was a strong emphasis on art and craft. I don't think ever any political building or any public building has been given such importance to craft and craftspeople. And when half the country is saying, oh, they're dying off and crafts are going to be finished and they're all in a miserable state, I who have felt a resurgence, and I think this is the ultimate for us in a proof of their resurgence, that we have over 350 craftspeople who have contributed to just my Shilpa gallery, which I did hands-on. But of course, in the other galleries, we certainly advised and commented. But all the pieces in the Shilp gallery, 8 installations, were done absolutely 100% by the hands of the craftspeople. And the symbols we chose were all above any politics and above any religion. So I was very proud that we could show India's living heritage. And I don't think any country would have as many craft skills as we do.
Talk a little bit more about that last sentence, that the symbols you chose were above any politics and above any religion, any sort of micro breakdown of community. The symbolism of the new Parliament House, the ceremony around it, it's led to a lot of debate. When you mindfully looked for those symbols, what were you looking for and what did you want to convey?
Well, for the common meeting where all the people who are going to put up art installations or do certain walls or certain murals, the directive given to us by the Culture Ministry was that India is a secular country. We don't want to offend any community. We do not want to create a controversy. But on the other hand, there are also very strong symbols which the whole country identifies with. For instance, I used the Ganga, but I used the Ganga along with Varanasi. I joined it with the Indian civilization, and I used it for a theme called Yatra, which meant there was a continuous journey, the journey of life, the life cycle. Ganga flows on forever. Banaras is the oldest continuously living city, and Indian civilization never broke down. It's one of the oldest ones. So we tied in everything together. So Banaras is not a holy city. It was never projected as that in our piece. And Asta, for instance, which was about faith, automatically you'd think of religion. But I said above our religious faiths should be the faith in the soil of our country. So I lifted it from religion and prayer beads to the fact that we took soil from every state and union territory in the country, either in the form of the pottery they make, or we got the soil from there and made artifacts ourselves. So it was quite a wonderful exercise with each of them, including as many craftspeople as possible. And the other subjects were like the common politics accepted by India, which is self-reliance, unity in diversity, integration with nature, the festivals that all the prominent communities celebrate, Gyan, which was about the 22 languages of India, elevated to calligraphy and beautiful script writing. So that's how we did it. We just managed to rise above everything and show the craft in its glory. I think all the others also. There was a People's Wall, which had folk artists from every country depicting very sweetly their feeling of what the Indian people do. The whole wall was of that. One
So
was a brass. Pardon? Yeah.
go ahead, complete your point.
One was a brass relief wall of Samudra Manthan, which again the symbolism is of churning to bring out the good, separated from the evil. I hope Parliament is also meant to do that. These were the kind of pieces, and the other galleries were Kala, which was about musical instruments, Stapati of about ancient buildings. So, like that, there were many murals of historical occasions, democracy in motion, those kind of pieces.
So you of course speak as a proud craftswoman and crafts leader who supervised all of this with love and pride. But let me open this up now, because of course, like all symbols in our country, there has been great amount of politics. People have walked away with their own interpretations of the little they've seen. Not everybody has managed to go inside Parliament yet. Let me bring in what I think might be maybe a different view from Saba Naqvi, and then I'll open it up for everybody else. Saba, you heard Jaya, and she spoke about looking mindfully for symbols that were above politics and above division.
And I'm sure she's done a lovely job. There's no doubt about that. Why do I engage with Parliament, which I've covered for years? I engage with what happens inside Parliament. I engage with democratic procedures inside Parliament. I hope parliamentary committees will survive this era. There used 7 out of 10 bills used to be sent to Parliament. Now it's down to 1. The first person who read out the words of the President of India, which is Mr. Harivansh, is the individual who sat over that shameful scene in 2020 in Parliament when he subverted all norms and passed the farm laws, which a year later the government withdrew. Number 2. Number 3, while you had male priests walking down Parliament, and sure, I have nothing against the aesthetics of the times, you had women champions being beaten up a short walk away, dragged by the police. You've seen the images. So I believe that is also democracy, and they are complaining against a BJP MP on sexual harassment, that too of a minor. Nothing has happened over there. So my concern is with Parliament. Let's get even more. Let's forget the broad strokes. What happened in the last session of Parliament? The Treasury benches, which is of the ruling party, held up the House. They refused to have any business in the House till Rahul Gandhi, this lethal figure, was suspended from the House. They did that. And they refused to. The Prime Minister, by the way, has never replied in 9 years to a single query. There is a way to put forth a query. They held up on those grounds. The Treasury benches, nobody's ever seen that. I haven't, after years of covering Parliament. What is going to happen in the monsoon session of Parliament? Please understand that. The government is going to try and pass in the upper house the ordinance which goes against what the Supreme Court said about federal powers, federal structures, about the Delhi government ordinance. The government, there is already preparation for that in the
Can I come in just to ask, is there I think Yashwant made this point and he'll make it himself, that this is a Parliament House. Tomorrow, whether or not Mr. Modi's government exists, the Parliament House will, right? It belongs to all of us, irrespective of our affiliation.
What has been happening in Parliament House? How do you deal with that?
Those are a fair set of questions.
Last 8 years, look at the PRS legislative work. Look at forget Saba Naqvi.
So I agree that the productivity has of course got.
Look at that. Tell me what has happened in the last session of Parliament.
I think Mohan has already wanted to come in.
I've never seen Treasury benches boycotting Parliament. Should the Prime Minister of India, forget about giving interviews, not reply to Parliament?
Let me bring in the others.
It's not about buildings. We don't care about buildings. I don't care about buildings. Other might. I care about parliamentary democracy, parliamentary debate. And you are now going to use the next session to subvert federal powers. So that is my view, and I'm very clear. And the most shameful thing, women were being beaten up down the road at Jantar Mantar. You can walk there on a good afternoon from Parliament House to Jantar Mantar.
Yeah.
Women were being beaten up over there. I will repeat that again and again. So
and
that is
And you have every right. I actually just tweeted.
Look at that image. And these men are walking around, and the women
let me get the let me just get the others in. I just wanted to say that I tweeted I tweeted two things today. One, how moved I was by the multi-faith ceremony, and I thought it was at the heart of what our country is. But I also tweeted later, when I saw what happened with the wrestlers, that I thought that the most befitting tribute to the spirit of this our new Parliament House would be to take action against Brij Bhushan Saran, the man accused of sexual harassment by the wrestlers, whose images being pulled away by the police have now gone viral. But let me bring in the others. In India, everything and its opposite is often simultaneously true. Jaya Jaitley spoke with great passion about what went into creating the masterpieces of artwork inside the new Parliament House. Saba Naqvi says the building isn't important; it's what happens inside it that's more important. Mohandas Pai, let's bring you in.
Barkha, today was a great day for India and all Indians. I want to paraphrase Pandit Nehru in his Trust with Destiny speech. The soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance. Finally, we have a sunset, a Parliament House, built by Indians, designed by Indians, with Indian labor and Indian money, which reflects India's civilizational ethos. India is not a new country born in 47. It's an old civilization. It has its own culture, its ethos, its traditions, etc. And all that has to be reflected in Parliament. It is reflected in Parliament. Like Jaya said, our craftsmen, our great people who create things, images, they're all there in Parliament. So we have to be a proud day today. And I think it is very befitting that this happened after 75 years today, in time for the 2024 or 26 delimitation exercise, which will expand Parliament dramatically. And all the things that went on today, I think, reflect our traditions, because life is a continuum. I mean, I read people say, oh, India was born in, August 15, 1947, which is so ridiculous. And I think it's very important. You just saw what happened in Great Britain too, right? In Great Britain too, they follow their traditions, and they follow the traditions very, very, very religiously in a sort of a way. Now, Barkha, would you say that the UK is not a secular republic? Would you say the US is not a secular republic? The UK has symbols of its past. When the king was coronated, he was enjoined to be the defender of the faith. Which faith? It's Christianity. But it's still a secular republic. Nobody questions that aspect, right? We are a secular republic and an ancient civilization.
But there is a church. There is a church that confers power on the King of England. The only church in India is the Constitution and our democracy. There is a difference. We are not England.
Difference. But Barkha, there is no difference. Let me explain to you that the church and the king are a tradition of the past, but he takes the oath to say as per law. And the law is very clear. We're all governed by law as regards to relationship with each other in the secular world. But we're all governed by traditions and belief in terms of a relationship. Now, as far as the woman getting beaten up, please remember, you cannot march and protest around Parliament. It's not allowed. You have to be in Jantar Mantar. These people chose this time to protest. And also, please remember, when P.T. Usha came there to talk to them about having an inquiry, the Mary Com inquiry was done. These people refused to give, evidence. They're playing politics. Now, wrestlers and sports people should not play politics. And I don't think misrepresenting them by saying, oh, they're great heroes. They are heroes. But when they play politics, they become politicians. I think we got to be very circumspect and honest in our dialogue. But all that said, Barkha, today is a great day, very happy day. We saw a new thing happen. And, is India reborn for me? Because we were in a house created by the British, following British precedents. All British symbolisms are inside. All that is gone. We have Indian symbolism, and we have a bright future. So I think it's a great day.
Okay, a lot to actually rebut and talk about on your perspective, Mohan, on the wrestlers' protest. But this program today is about Parliament. But Saba is right in saying we have to talk also about what happened at Jantar Mantar. But I want to give the others a chance to come in, and then we can take a closer look at some of the differing views. Yashwant, to you first. I know that you and Saba, I read a little bit of a Twitter exchange, and you made this point that Parliament, this Parliament House, like the previous one, transcends who is elected, and that's the beauty of it. Do you think that beauty was captured today, or do you feel skeptical like Saba does?
Well, Barkha, let me first of all start with congratulating Jaya ji and the 60,000 other unsung heroes who have been working so tirelessly to bring up this wonderful temple of democracy that generations and generations are going to, see, work, speak, and govern, and take India forward for centuries to come. I mean, this is altogether a different debate, I would say, simply because uh, I somehow sense this entire debate is kind of centered around an individual or an individual's politics, while I fail to see why this should be the reason that we should be discussing the new parliament. I don't care who is inaugurating it. I don't care who said what. I don't care who protested where. Do I care is that we needed a new parliament. This is something which has been discussed for decades now. We needed a new parliament. We needed a more space for our parliamentarians to work in. We needed a symbol of an emerging new India, with the coming generations would take pride in, and we needed it to be rooted in the Indian ethos, our culture, and our history. I was mesmerized when Jayaji was telling all those smaller details which went into while selecting each and every piece that she has installed. When you hear for any art piece from the perspective of the person who's involved with it's a mesmerizing experience. It's always is. I mean, we all know that. While at the same time, it's not that I totally disregard what Saba is saying. I'm not saying that, simply because these are the things which must be debated in India in our democratic way. And this only tells that, this panel, where on the day of inauguration of our new building of parliament, we have a voice like Saba dissenting to the throttle that what is happening, what she feels. That's the beauty of democracy. And when we are part of this debate, Barkha, one thing I'm absolutely sure of, I am absolutely not a naysayer. I mean, democracy will survive because we are so much critical of ourselves, that I genuinely believe, after covering elections in more than 40 odd countries across the globe, probably we are the most self-critical people in the world. And it's good. And it's not bad. I mean, it's good as long as we are criticizing ourselves. Good for our democracy, good for our health, democratic health.
So
But
as an Indian, you feel what this evening?
I feel extremely proud. I feel extremely proud of the new parliament. Extremely proud that those 60,000 people are mentioned who built the new parliament. Extremely proud that we have Jayaji as their face to say what went in making that parliament. Extremely proud of somebody like Mohan to say that why he feels so proud of that, and extremely proud of Saba as well, Barkha. I mean, that she is here to say what she is not feeling is right. Yes, we can debate about the women wrestlers and everybody inside. That's another debate. I would not like to take that debate. Barring that, before anybody judges me, I will just say one line that I have always maintained, that all politicians, no matter who that person or which party that person belongs, should be kicked out from the sports business, no matter what. That's my standalone thing. So that's another debate. But today, it was a beautiful ceremony, wonderful ceremony. As you yourself said, that the multi-faith, on one hand, we had this multi-faith prarthana and prayers and everything, which was the essence of our India as a continuity. When Jayaji was talking about Banaras, as a Banarsi, I couldn't help smiling, because it's not a city, it's a state of mind. And that's how, in a Sanatani concept, India as a philosophy is a continuous journey. And as long as this journey is continuing, it is not just good for the health of democracy in India, but it is also the good for the health of the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So it's the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam journey which is continuing. I would rather celebrate that flow in the Ganga. I would rather celebrate that continuous flow. Tomorrow, all these panelists, we will not be here, but I'm absolutely sure that 100 years down the lane, this debate will continue in India.
Okay, I think that's very, very eloquently said, and I know Saba will have things to say. But let me, before I go back to Jaya Jaitley, get in Professor Mridula Mukherjee. We've talked a lot about symbols. The symbols have been debated. Yashwant makes the point that the very fact that we're sitting here debating them is the essence of Parliament, old and new. It's the essence of our democracy. How did you see the symbols that you saw today, ma'am?
Well, I'm sorry that, I cannot join in the celebratory mood which seems to dominate your program, Barkha, apart from Saba. Everybody else is really in a self-congratulatory kind of mood. And they testing is all politics, those young women being sitting out there under sun and rain is all about politics. Sexual harassment is all about politics. I mean, I'm really sorry at the manner in which the contempt with which their protest is being treated on your program. I'm really sorry about it. I wish it was not being done in this way at all by very respectable people. I'm also sorry that the images that have dominated today are also images of people from different parts of India wanting to come to Delhi to protest, yes, which is their right in a democracy, being stopped in Ambala, Gurdwaras being barricaded. I mean, come on. Surely we can't all be so obsessed with what's going on among the ruling elites of Delhi that we don't care about our people anymore. We didn't care for one whole year when the farmers sat there. Those who were supposed to be our annadatas. Yes, the artisans are great. So are our annadatas. So this is a democracy we are talking about. It. Yes, there is a Saba Naqvi, but there are many Saba Naqvis today who are sitting inside jails. There are many Saba Naqvis today who are being dragged into EDs and being questioned the whole day. Women like her and you, and we all know that. We know many journalists. Every second day we hear of resignations because of political. I am speaking on this.
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask you a question, a follow-up on what you just said about the restless protest. It seems to me, much as my position is that and Yashwant's position is politicians shouldn't be in sporting bodies. My position is Mr. Brij Bhushan Saran lowers the dignity of the House. But I do want to ask you, would any government have allowed a Mahapanchayat to take place in front of Parliament House on a day like this? Would any government, do you think the Congress would have allowed it? My sense, maybe I'm just jaded after covering politics for too many years. I think nobody would have allowed it. Nobody would have allowed it. Mridula?
Barkha, I don't know. I cannot answer in categorical terms a question like that, but I can tell you from memory. I was around when the emergency was just lifted and the first elections were announced after the emergency. At that time, India Gate used to be open to the people of India. The protests were not confined to Jantar Mantar. I was part of a crowd of 2 lakh people at the Boat Club lawns. I remember I came out of the archives where I was doing my research and joined 2 lakh people over there right in front of Parliament House. And this was just after the emergency. So, I remember the farmers' protests which stretched all the way from India Gate right up till Rashtrapati Bhavan. I remember the bullock carts and the tractors blocking Rajpath for days on end. So we've had different kinds of democratic situations. So let's not now try and idealize and forget, we have now confined our protesters to one little lane in Delhi. I mean, come on, we all know this. But anyway, to come to your points about the symbolism today, I would love to be. I'm a student of the freedom struggle. I'm a student of the Indian democracy, how it has evolved over the last 100 years through the struggles of the Indian people. And I would love to celebrate today. But I'm sorry, I'm not being allowed to, because the essence of democracy, the essence of democratic traditions of parliament, in my opinion, and that's what Nehru taught us and Gandhi taught us through their actions, is consensus. Can you please allow me? I mean, you've allowed others to speak a lot, but dissenting voices should also be
not at all. I've allowed, you could time it. I've allowed everybody exactly the same amount of time. Time it if you want.
If I've taken too much of your time, I'll stop.
Not at all. I don't know why, ma'am, you're taking it so personally. I'm just trying to keep the conversation going. And I really, with respect, say, please time it, and you will find everybody has got absolutely equal time to speak. That's one thing I'm very, very clear about doing on my program. And I think I've done that. I will certainly come back to you. You have raised some very critical points, and I'd like to go to Jaya Jaitley. Ms. Jaitley, you spoke a lot about the artwork, but we didn't get to speak about some of the other things that we saw. The Sengol has become a big point of debate. The Congress has criticized it, suggesting that one, the history is questionable, two, that it is almost sort of akin to a coronation as opposed to, this being about people. And, there has been all sorts of questions raised thereby around the symbolism of it. Shashi Tharoor has been the one congressman who says both of these positions are reconcilable. What do you think?
Well, I would make my judgment according to the pictures I've seen of history. The history of the Sengol was something that began with when Nehru, in the first parliament, was the first prime minister. He did not want to take the symbol from Mountbatten. It was just a passing on of a symbol of power. So what the process became that the Shankaracharya would hand it over to Jawaharlal Nehru. So the picture everywhere is of Jawaharlal Nehru wearing the shawl that the Shankaracharya draped him with and handed him the Sengol. It was simply a symbol of power that came from a particular power to another. So that symbol has been put there. When all these questions are being asked, and I don't want to get into politics because I'm not a politician anymore, but having been one for 30 years, I can't stop thinking about what the answer could be. And that is that if Nehru, as Prime Minister of India, could be honored with the shawl and the handing over of the Sengol, and not Dr. Rajendra Prasad, then what's the problem now of Narendra Modi having it and not Draupadi Murmu? To me, that's a very simple, basic, logical question, which I think any man in the street and even my craftspeople have been saying. Why is this hangama there? We see these photos and we see there's no difference now. So that's where I would like to end that. I agree with Saba as an activist that I've been almost all my life. It was very, very short time that the parties I was associated with were in power at all. I will say that I have been beaten up many times by the government in power because we walked along Parliament Street wanting to go to Parliament to protest the rise in milk prices when the alcohol prices went down. And, I had bruises for 8 months to show for it. So all these things happen. That is what Parliament is for. That is what activism is for. But there should be one day of honoring the building of Parliament, the meaning of Parliament, the fact that it is a building where democracy must function, where debate and dissent must take place. And as far as stopping dissent or smothering dissent is concerned, well, I don't think we should ever forget the emergency. Let us not forget the ordinance of being scrapping what the Supreme Court said about Shabanu. So I am not doing whataboutery. I'm only saying let's not pick things where there have been precedents that others have done it. Then it doesn't make sense. Your argument weakens. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
But
I think
one more point I would make is that for the art and culture, I did say on a Malayalam TV that art and culture is always universally by international scholars and others believed to be something that smooths away the rough edges of society. So whatever ill will and ill feelings there are in Parliament, when you come out and you see really beautiful things of your country, maybe the person's heart will soften. That's what I want to say.
Okay. Saba, let me bring you in. I think, it's not about being this or that. I want to pick up the last comment that Jaya Jaitley made, that can there be one day where it's about the moment? Or is it that the moment itself or how it was conducted, the symbolism of it? I know you made the point about the wrestlers, and I do take your point. And I'm saying again and again that I feel very strongly that there should be action against Brij Bhushan Saran. I'm just saying there's that, but there's also what happened inside the house. What did you think of what happened inside the house?
what is Parliament? Is it a place for its elected representatives who take the voice of the people, who make policy and who make laws? What is Parliament in its purity? Is it a place for people to pose? Sure, many people do. I've seen them all. What is it? It is meant to be for our voices to be heard. The whole exercise of elections takes place not so that one person without the opposition, the real opposition there, can just make speeches about how India has been lifted out of poverty when clearly it is not, which is fine. He's entitled to as a politician. But was the BJP doing the right thing? What do you mean? I mean, I think the wrestlers who have been sitting there in the heat and rain have they respect the institution, so they're walking towards a parliament that they respect. I respect. I have covered that institution. I have covered it when there were BJP figures like Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Arun Jaitley and Sushma Swaraj who respected what parliament is meant to be about allowing the opposition a debate. I have never heard of the treasury benches subverting parliament, which they did. And since they're so confident electorally, they wanted Rahul Gandhi to be disqualified. That you must understand what happened in the last session, and you must know what will happen in the next session. It will be an attack on a Supreme Court verdict. So what do you expect me to say? I'm not going to fall into this pretend thing, oh no, but we must be so nice for this ceremony. I think it's rubbish. They've completely subverted. And I'm not going to do the whataboutery of no, culture is very nice. This is very, one day you must not. They should reach out in one day.
Okay.
They should put that man, it's a BJP MP. It's not about him. Why has the Prime Minister done nothing? What about Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao? It's the Prime Minister's party. Within political circles, they say Yogi Adityanath is ready to get rid of him. It is the Delhi which doesn't want him to go.
You know politics. This particular MP has probably the only one in UP who's openly criticized Yogi Adityanath at a different time.
So but he has been accused. Yeah. He has been accused of raping, and he's a BJP guy. So you're going to tell me, no, we must be very polite. Women, I don't agree with you at all. I'm not going to go with this hypocrisy and this kind of attitude one day in the country. I have many days in my country.
I think Jaya's wanting to come in briefly.
Citizens of India
to say one thing. Today was not a day slated for any discussion, argument.
Today is Savarkar's birthday also.
It may be anybody's birthday.
Okay, Saba.
Today is Savarkar's birthday.
Okay, you're all speaking together.
Even though he was
Saba, you made your...
Gandhi.
Jaya Jaitley.
Would you accept that? If you produce Sengol, then you must know that the fellow who killed Gandhi was a follower of Savarkar. Just
one minute. Mohan, I'm coming to you in a second. Jaya,
I'm going to say what I want to say.
Of course, you must say what you want to say. Of course, you must say what you want to say. I'm allowing Jaya Jaitley a brief interjection, very brief. Mohan Yashwant and Professor Mridula Mukherjee are waiting to speak. Jaya Jaitley, please go ahead. Ma'am, do you have anything to say?
Don't briefly undermine today's ceremony and art and aesthetics of the poor people of India. What I'm saying is today was a purely designated ceremonial day. There was no discussion slated, no debate slated, no activity slated. And if the opposition had been there, maybe if they'd raised a voice, something would have happened. But I think let us for one day not fight.
Okay, Mohan Das Pai, sorry ma'am, I'm racing this along because we have limited time. Mohan Das Pai, here's a different way of looking at it. Imagine for a moment that this ceremony is taking place and outside at a designated venue, you're also able to allow a peaceful protest by women who look towards Parliament for justice, right? Wouldn't that have caught the essence of what this day was meant to be about?
Barkha, we have a law which prohibits any kind of demonstration outside Parliament. The law has been there for the last 30, 40 years. They were breaking the law. Would you like people to break the law blatantly in front of the new parliamentary house when it is getting inaugurated? No, the law has to be the law. We all live under the rule of law. Two, as far as this charge is concerned, just because somebody accuses you something, you're not guilty. That is not the law. We are not ruled by the mob. We are ruled by the rule of law. There has to be an inquiry. P.T. Usha set up an inquiry with Mary Kom. Would you not believe Mary Kom? Mary Kom is a woman, 4-time Olympic winner and all that. Let the
I mean, this
inquiry
is
go.
a this is a man who has said on camera that he's murdered someone. I just want to give
Barkha,
context about who we are talking about. That's all. Yeah.
Barkha, I agree with you. I agree with you. People who are done wrong should be prosecuted. They must be put into jail. Lalu Prasad Yadav got away for 20 years. We have a broken down justice system, but this is not the day when you pick up all that and have a one-sided dialogue. And we must respect Veer Savarkar. You may not like him, that is fine. Don't like him, hate him. We can't have this hatred against a great, freedom fighter. He was a freedom fighter much before Gandhi. You must go to the cellular jail where he was put inside for 12 years. I didn't know Savarkar. I didn't know anything about him till I went to Port Blair. I saw the place. I had tears in my eyes. How can somebody suffer such torture for 12 years? Now we have some people like this. You accuse him, say all kind of nonsense, which is contrary to the law. Come on. We must have a civil debate. We must respect all freedom fighters. Not only some. These are people who worship the culture of a family, which is very wrong. Now, Barkha, I want to end by saying, we can have a debate in Parliament. I am very disappointed with Parliament for many reasons. The budget, we spend 45 lakh crores. There is no debate. There has been no debate on the budget for the last 8 to 9 years because the opposition does not come to the budget debate and criticize the government. The opposition has to hold the government accountable. During the budget session is about the budget, the spending of hard-earned money. There is no debate. 45 lakhs just passed. That is not right. Both sides have
done this to each other. Both sides have done this to each other. We have all seen it. That is the point you want to make in the end, that Parliament has to function better. I think that's an important point, especially when we look at the PRS data on the productivity of Parliament having significantly gone down. That's something to underline today. Professor Mridula Mukherjee, your thoughts, ma'am, and I'll give Yashwant the last word then.
Well, I think, there are many things that I want to say, but time is obviously short. So the main point which I have been making over the last 2 days is, it was the responsibility of the government of the day to build consensus on such an important issue as the inauguration of the new Parliament building. There is no reason they could not have consulted leaders of the opposition before the event about this upcoming event, shared what they were going to do, how they were going to do it, and take them on board. That is how you function in a democracy. You do not make decisions and announce them. The day was chosen as a divisive day. Whether you admire Savarkar or not, he is a divisive personality. The grandson of Mahatma Gandhi has spoken up. His great-grandson have spoken up, both on the issue of the Sengol, Rajmohan Gandhi and Tushar Gandhi. Please pay attention to what they are saying. There was no reason to choose Savarkar's birthday if you wanted for everybody around. So also there was no reason to have not considered the opposition view if it was that the president should inaugurate. The whole way of functioning of this government is you deliver fiats because actually you don't care about the opposition. That is the tragedy. Mr. Pai is saying Parliament is obstructed. I hope he knows that in the recent past, it's the treasury benches which have been disrupting Parliament, which is unheard of anywhere in any democracy. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, Yashwant, there are many clear disagreements on this program. I think we must all agree that the women talking about sexual abuse must find justice and must be heard with sensitivity. That point I do want to underline. For the rest, I give you the closing word.
Barkha, I'm into perception research, and this is what I want to say. Who wouldn't agree on the women wrestlers thing, what Saba said? Talk to anybody on the street if they have been harassed, if the charges are proven. Not only disqualify the guy, hang that person. Who would disagree? Everybody here, everybody on the street, if something injustice has been done, justice has to be delivered and justice has to be seen. I just hope that rather than boycotting the Parliament, the opposition would have been there and use the very first day of the functioning of the Parliament to raise this issue tooth and nail and fight it out if the government is protecting anybody who has done this kind of thing. So I don't think there is any disagreement whatsoever. The disagreement is probably, or maybe, actually, I don't even disagree with the Saba saying anything or the wrestlers protesting. It is just that, as Mohan said, if it is a law that you cannot protest over there, it's a law, no matter who the person is. Probably today would not have been the right day. Probably the first day of the functioning of this government in the new parliament would have been the right day. And to stall the proceedings of that first day in session, full day, I would have supported, everybody would have supported. Who wouldn't support it? I mean, there is no disagreement on anybody not supporting the females to get justice. But today is the day of those 60,000 people who have built and gifted this nation, this new parliament. Today is the day to celebrate those 60,000 people, to see what the generations of India are going to see and come. And this Raja and Sengol and all these things, nothing is permanent. तख्त पे कौन परमानेंट बैठता है बरखा? ये देश है, ये मुल्क है जिसने 77 में उठा के फेंक दिया था, जब न इंटरनेट था, न सोशल मीडिया था, न टीवी था, न रेडियो था. 77, this country, that more than 3/4 of the people were illiterate. There was no campaign. Everybody was in the jail. The opposition was in the jail. I am a product of the emergency generation. So if this country can give 77, then everybody under the sun working in the area of politics should understand they should not take people for granted at all. And this is what the beauty of democracy is. The continuum or continuity of the mandates is what is important in our elected democracy. This new parliament would be seeing so many governments in generations to come, which would be voted in by the people, and so many governments going out who would be booted out of the seat by the people. It's we the people who count the most, Barkha.
I think that is something we can all agree on. The power comes from we the people, and on that there can be no disagreement, and long may it stay that way. I just want to give a special shout out to Jaya, Jaitley, who probably wanted a little more conversation on all the work she had done inside Parliament, and equally, okay, I'm being told. I was actually trying to close, but I'm told that we have an image of Brij Bhushan Saran. I don't know if we have it to share, but Brij Bhushan Saran is also attracting a lot of attention for the wrong reasons. And as I give a shout out to Jaya Jaitley, I would also say that perhaps if the wrestlers had been treated with empathy and had been allowed maybe an alternative venue, not outside Parliament, to actually hold their protest, then those images would not have overtaken what was happening inside Parliament. A lot to debate, but we have to leave it there. Thank you very much to our panel and to our audience. Thank you for watching. Take care. We started Mojo right here in this basement. Just 4 people. And now we're about to hit our first 1 million subscribers. So this is to say thank you to all of you for your support, for your respect, and for your encouragement. We've always gone to where the story is. During the pandemic, when television's big anchors were hunkered down in their studios or at their homes, we hit the road. We traveled from Delhi to Kerala, covering 30,000 kilometers in our small car, reporting from inside ICUs and inside slum tenements. Whether it's flash floods or war zones, we've always put our boots on the ground. In fact, we're just back from Punjab, tailing the Khalistani fugitive Amritpal Singh. And through all of this, we have always put you, the people, first. In an age of partisan polarized media where most journalists are either chamcha ya morcha, we believe the story is sacred and the truth of the story is what matters. And now as we get ready for the next step, we need your help. Become a Mojo member and get first access to all our big interviews. Get a chance to ask our newsmakers questions. Get a chance to write and report for us for both our website and our channels. And also, interact with me and my colleagues directly through AMA sessions. Literally, ask me anything. Click on the join now right next to the subscribe button, and yes, also subscribe if you haven't yet, and become a Mojo member for just 159 rupees a month. Hope to see lots of you in our community. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.